Hello, people of YouTube, it's Deepak here, and welcome to the DCS News for the 25th of January 2025. I hope you all enjoyed that, my most recent video, all about the superb AH-64D Apache. Today we were taking a bit of a look at navigation, and I showed you all kind of the absolute basics of operating the TSD, and even a little bit of bonus there on how to work the ADF, which is probably something you'll rarely do in the Apache, but it's the one piece of radio navigation you've got. So yeah, actually, I'm kind of thinking like how jam resistant are those GPSs? But I guess you have INS backup anyway. So welcome to the stream, Tog. You are indeed first. Tea Kettle Barbecue, welcome. Colin Kelly, Only Napalm, James Fenton. Dear ED, please protect and support the Harrier for 2025 and beyond. Thank you. Yeah, I'm seconding you there. I'm still I'm very much looking forward to getting my Harrier throttle, which is being made by Hoverstop/Engines. Yeah, I want to have a Harrier that I can actually fly with that throttle. Mark S, welcome. Pink Floyd, Hyena, Nico, JP Gibbons, SeanAm81. Everybody, welcome to the stream. And as we often do these days, I have with me the one and only John Bluer. Hello there.
Hello. How you doing, sir?
Oh, hi. Welcome to the stream, sir. It was a very exciting week last week with all three of us, and a very, a large amount of content to go through. A little bit less this week, but we still have some exciting stuff. We have a newsletter, we have a change log, we have some developmental screenshots, and as is often the case with DCS, we've got a sale. So as I often say, if you're thinking of buying a DCS module, just wait. There's always going to be a sale.
Is it like DCS? Are they like DFS, where there's like always a sale going? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The sale can only go on for so long, and that amount of time is forever.
Yeah. I don't remember any time there wasn't a DFS sale, so yeah, I feel like I almost feel like it's more you're dodging the non-sales than the sales, really, isn't it? With the DCS stuff. So.
And the funny thing is, so often with DCS, I've purchased modules outside of sales, so I'm obviously an idiot, and I've managed to miss most of them. Golden GNU, salute. That was an epic stream. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. I was worn out by the end of it, but I enjoyed it. Yeah. Mark S, another 2-hour stream this week. I doubt it, but you never know.
Yeah. You never know. You never know what happens.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was great to see Dot again. I mean, we obviously talked to him and stuff, but obviously for everyone else as well to hear from him and him to pop in. I thought like it was probably there wasn't really more fitting time, was it, for him to come back and chew the fat, so to speak. And we even
will people be surprised to hear that we're actually friends in real life?
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't hate
I think
me.
they might be shocked. Yeah. And we even looks like, although we're not 100% sure, but we're pretty sure. Look like we got old Nick Gray in the comment section as well, don't we?
It seems likely. I started off. We talked about this off of the stream. I started off kind of saying, "Nah, no way, it's a joke."
Yeah.
And I'm now about 85% sure that it's him. So yes, we think that perhaps he was watching last week's stream. We also had Glowing Amram who jumped into the comment section, so he obviously watched as well. That's very nice. I wonder if Daddy Wags watched.
Yeah, that would be quite nice, wouldn't it? It would be lovely if he popped his head in. But yeah, it was interesting. Glowing Amram, he popped in and he just said sort of thank you and stuff. He came up with a couple of little tidbits as well to kind of.
Actually, speaking of which, that's a good opportunity for us to jump in there and actually let's address some of the comments from last week, because that's something we were thinking about getting into. And Glowing Amram did have some very handy clarifications and little comments. So let me go and get my hands on exactly that and see what it was that he said. Here we go. Glowing Amram. Hi, I'm the video producer at ED, and I felt like chiming in on these 2 points. Number one, the interface you're seeing of the dynamic campaign was captured in-game. As usual, it might differ for the final product. So I was going on and kind of saying, oh, no, there's no way that's the real UI. That's obviously something they've made for just a nice presentation for the video. No, that's the UI. So I was wrong.
It's it looked like there was like a CRT filter, but maybe they were just filming an actual
It also looked
screen or
like
something.
he tilted it.
Yeah,
So
because like
yeah, so
yeah,
there were some cinematic elements used, but that's glowing Amram suggests that that is in fact the UI, and he's a
yeah,
ED employee, so he would know. So
yeah.
I'm I'm uh, I'm willing to stand corrected there. That is the
Mhm.
UI. And in point two, the tank gun sight reticle was also captured in game. A number of people commented on this after the stream actually and said, "Hey, Deepak, have you not been playing Combined Arms? That's what it looks like." And it's
Uh,
obviously been a while since I was playing Combined Arms.
yeah, absolutely. It's been a while. I think I've jumped into it once or twice, but it does feel like it's a little bit dated, and still, you can tell it hasn't had quite as much love as the other modules. So
No,
that's
that's true.
probably why. Yeah.
Also, he mentions that the videos that I was praising by another video producer are made by Adrian Caparzo, and
Hmm.
he's a fantastic cinematic creator. And when Glowing Amram is complimenting your work, it's going to be pretty good. And I agree. This guy is extremely good.
Yeah.
I like Caparzo, I think is the correct pronunciation. He did, I
Yeah.
think he did the Eli 2.1 video and some other stuff. Like he's done some
Yeah.
amazing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Griff Nizzle, no sale on the F1. There's never a sale on the F1. That's true.
Yeah.
Irish Pat 64, hello friends. Griff Nizzle. He commented on Ian Christie's and Sidekick 65's video
Mhm.
on ED's business practices, so he definitely pays attention to the content creators. So this is more
Mm.
people backing this up, saying that this is indeed Nick Gray. So I
Yeah.
should minimize my impressions of him then if he's going to be watching our videos.
I feel like if he's got to this stage and a couple impressions that sound like Marks and Spencer's adverts are going to break his resolve, I feel like he wouldn't have got this far, would he?
I imagine that he's going to dry his tears with wads of cash, and it's
Yes,
not going to bother
exactly.
him too much. He'll be fine. But look,
Whilst flying his plane,
yeah,
he's going.
exactly. While flying a Spitfire. Yeah. But no, seriously, big thumbs up to Nick Gray. It's nice to know that he's keeping track of what everybody's doing and saying. That's kind of fun. And
Yeah, it is.
this is not just DCS F16.
No,
This is
this
Eagle
is
Dynamics
M&S.
Premiere Choice Cut F16C Viper. Anyway,
Then we need someone like pouring like salted caramel on top of like an F16 or something.
literally. And we got a Roman Noodle. Hey DCS, give us better ground graphics. It's not 2004 anymore. I actually have to say that the more modern maps like Syria and Sinai and all of those other ones, the ground stuff looks amazing. I don't recognize this comment.
Mm. I think Caucasus is definitely showing its age. I flew around on that the other day, and you can definitely see the difference. And I think the Nevada as well is looking a bit older, but they've kind of addressed that already, didn't they, in the WAG's Q&A, that they're looking a bit older. I think probably as well is the two issues you've got is it's about depth and breadth.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can do the whole of like Iraq to the quality of a game like an FPS level, because it's just not the computing power. Also, the maps are big enough as they are already. So can you imagine how much bigger they'd be on the hard drives? And then the other issue, sorry.
The reality is though that you don't need that. You don't need that in a flight
Right.
simulator. In a flight simulator, you're creating high detailed areas around points of interest. So like airfields, cities, other particular points of interest, they're going to be high detail, and then the terrain in between doesn't matter too much. It needs to look good from altitude, but a really good example of this is the Persian Gulf map. The Persian Gulf map looks fantastic and has many very highly detailed sections, but there are parts of the map that are just desert, because in that part of the world there are places that are just desert. That's just the way it looks. And there's no point, dedicating thousands of polygons and gigabytes of texture RAM to represent sand.
Yeah, you're 100% right as well. Yeah, and also if you think about the early maps, they were made more so with like fixed wing in mind, you know. So they were, most of the time you were flying up at, you know, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 feet. It's only with like the Apache and more rotary wing are we now seeing stuff down at 50 feet, 100 feet, where
Yeah.
you can see those differences. But you are seeing them update that quality, like you said, with Sinai and Syria and all that kind of stuff. So I think they're responding to it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I personally have really no complaints about the maps. I think the maps look great. Now, I've not been able to try Afghanistan or Iraq. Unfortunately, I grabbed Afghanistan. You know how you've got the trial period thing.
Yeah.
I grabbed Afghanistan in the trial period right when the textures were broken. I don't know if you remember
Oh
that time,
no.
but there was a
Yeah.
period in
Yeah.
time when it was like always loading the lowest LOD, and so everything looked like Commodore 64 graphics. And they didn't fix it until after my trial ran out, so I never got to fly it.
Oh no. Yeah.
But I can imagine that it looks brilliant now. But yeah, sadly, I was bitten by a bug.
Yeah, that'll teach you for being enthusiastic.
Yeah, I trialed it too quick. I should have waited. Simon Campbell Smith recently purchased the MB339 to teach my 14-year-old how to fly. Lovely little plane and a great trainer. Yeah, that one's on the Lunar sale just now. Also, Pink Floyd pointing out there's no Steam sale this time, as far as he's aware. That makes sense given that the Lunar New Year is a Chinese thing and there's no Steam in China.
Yeah,
so maybe they don't care.
Yeah.
Welcome to stream, Mr. Yeti. Salute. Nice. Alrighty, shall we jump into that newsletter just now then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see what wondrousness we have. So yeah, we've got. They mentioned the fact that, of course, we've had the 2025 and beyond showcase. We had the Q&A with Daddy Wags, which we already talked about last week. And then they say they've been hard at work adding features and resolving bugs. So, yeah, we had a DCS update. We got 2.9.12. And included important updates to both the DCS core and many modules. In the core, AI aircraft received numerous improvements, such as consideration of obstacles in other aircraft when taking off and landing and taxiing, correction of the S3B refueling lights, improved formation keeping for World War II aircraft, and more. Ground AI also saw improvements with JTAC infrared point designations, AAA sound enhancements, new desert liveries, to name a few. There were naval improvements like fixing the CWIS and a livery fix. In addition to a lot of attention to the AI, the weapons saw improvements like elimination of Maverick camera shake, Hellfire accuracy improvements, and accurate guidance method for the SA-11. General flare resistance for many seekers, and other weapon changes to create enhanced accuracy and realism. The F-16 and the F-18 saw improvements like eliminating the F-16C's radar override crash, improved radar control and tracking, continued adjustment to the recently added false targets. That's an exciting one, actually. I need to get in and try this out because a more realistic radar simulation with false returns is going to be quite a fun thing, I think.
Yeah.
F-18C saw corrections to air-to-ground, expanded mode scanning, changes to coupled autopilot, and fixing the video display from the walleye to the data link pod. Then we've got the good old Apache. Further improvements to VRS entry feedback, fixed 2 crashes, added the ability for George to target inactivated units and engage units when fog is set to auto, and corrected the FCR RF handover to the CPG. The wheel chocks also received a texture, and we improved other avionics systems. Very nice. Have you taken the Apache up since the update?
I have. Yeah, it's now working. That George bug was very annoying because I think it also affected the hind as well.
Yeah.
So it's something to do with if you had the fog set to auto on a server or a mission, regardless if there was no fog, he just wouldn't see anything. And then the flip side was, apparently, this is what I've heard, if you did turn the fog off, flares don't work. So if someone fires an infrared at you, it just ignores the flares and just goes straight for you anyway. It's as if they're invisible. So a lot of servers weren't turning fog off because they were like, well, most people need flares, and it's only affecting the Apache. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a little bit of a pain, but it's good to see it fixed. The Apache's in a really nice place at the moment. The flight model and the new stability augmentation system tweaks and stuff are really good. It's still work to be done. Apparently, I was talking to an ex-Apache pilot the other day, a guy called Sculio, and he was saying apparently it's just the main rotor torque is a little bit too high. They need to adjust that. But he said other than that, it's in a pretty good place.
Okay, that's good. And then we've got the F5. Following its recent release, we were pleased to add 7 new liveries, made corrections to both the 3D model and textures to better match the liveries, corrected formation lights, provided texture template, and other improvements. There are, of course, many other improvements, fixes, and new additions in this update for the MI-24P, they missed the 8, MTV2, Flaming Cliffs 2024, and many of our third-party partner aircraft and campaign developers. So we'll dive into that in just a moment. Griffinizzle, Nevada was worth it for reflected campaigns alone. Zone 5, Speed and Angels, MiG Killers, all rad. Adrian Logan, DCS Steam sale is 27th of January to the 10th of February. Okay, so that's starting a little later. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yogi, welcome to the stream. Any word on the Typhoon? Yogi always asks if there's word on the Typhoon.
Yeah.
We did, of course, see it in the 2025 and beyond video. That's literally the only thing we've heard and seen. Heat Blur have been tight-lipped about the Typhoon for some time now. I guess they have a bunch of work to do on the F-14. They're still finishing the F-4. They have the A6 to deliver. AI, that is, and also the Draken. So I can't imagine that we're going to see a Typhoon anytime soon. Simon Campbell-Smith, evening Yogi. Oh, Yogi, thank you very much indeed for the very kind contribution. I salute you, sir. That's very, very nice of you. So yeah, let's jump into the changelog here. See if there is anything else to be called out. We got the big items there, of course, in the newsletter. Anything particularly exciting that we want to call out?
One thing I noticed, because it's been a problem for a while, the NS430, the little what do you call it?
The navigational display, yeah.
Yeah, they've apparently fixed the memory leak. So that's an old issue that's been a problem for a long while.
Good.
The longer you have that thing running, eventually your game crashes. And so I'm hoping, I haven't tested it yet, but I'm hoping that's now completely fixed, which is nice.
That explains a lot, because I used to always fly my Gazelle with the NS430 installed, and I did experience that performance would degrade over time in a longer flight. Yeah. So there you go. That makes perfect sense. Yogi, do you think the Typhoon will be released this year? Short answer, no. I do not think the Typhoon will be released this year. Mr. Yeti, if it is, I'd reckon very end of the year. There were no internal shots in the 25 and beyond. Yeah, we've not seen the cockpit in game. We've not seen the HUD. We've only seen images of the helmet-mounted display that I suspect are pre-rendered. I don't even think the helmet-mounted display was in game. Yeah, I don't think we're anywhere near a release on the Typhoon. I think 2026 is a better bet. And if that were to be the case, and if ED can actually stick to their current release plans, that would mean that we get F-15C, F-35, and Typhoon all in the same year. I absolutely do not believe we're getting the F-35 in 2026, but ED have said that's what they're targeting. F-15C, though, I have confidence we could see an F-15C in 2026. That seems reasonable.
Yeah. Well, when you consider the flight model, they've already said it's going to be the FD 2024 flight model, because that's an accurate flight model.
The flight model in that is amazing. It feels perfect.
Yeah, so they're not going to have to redo that. They have said that they're going to refactor all of the graphics, aren't they? And obviously there's a lot more systems to be involved. But yeah, I mean, I still stick to that opinion I had the other week, where I said that I think it's a response to Falcon BMS's F-15C, and B, I think also this is in a way a tooling up to potentially either remake or, depending on what happens with it all, finish the F-15E, because I think they need to figure out how a lot of this stuff works. And I'm not saying it's a copy and paste, but at very least it's a tooling up So yeah, and I mean the F-15C is a great module anyway. Even if the Razban stuff had never happened, it still would be a great module to add. So
Oh yeah, very much so. And people have been asking for it for a long time, so I think that's really cool. The fact that we're getting the MiG-29 and the F-15 in full fidelity, which are two modules that people had been asking for a while, I think is very, very cool.
They're going to be great.
Yeah. Mr. Yeti, the M2000K is broken. It's not picking up waypoints. Interesting.
Ooh.
I hadn't heard that one. Griff Nizzle, sure there was. Herc Cockpit, early access feature.
Yeah.
Yep. 23 Barracks, hello, what about the dynamic campaign? Well, I would guess, and we there's nothing to back this up, but I would guess that the dynamic campaign could drop any time now. The fact that they showed it off in the video there, and they've been talking about it quite a bit, I think we could see that soon, would be my guess.
Yeah. I think people just need to temper their expectations for the first iterations. I really do think dynamic campaign is going to start off, and it's going to be that thing where you pop the hood initially and you go, is that it? But then I think they're going to keep building upon it and building upon it. And I think it also potentially fixes a couple issues, because I was thinking about the dynamic campaign the other day. One of the issues you have with campaign, any module that gets released or any map that gets released is you don't have campaigns to go with it. I mean, we've talked about this before, that single player is actually the bigger market with DCS. It's just the less talkative market. And I suspect that one fix that the dynamic campaign makes is it allows you to straight away have campaigns within a new map. It also allows for a little bit that, like, do you know we saw Baltic Dragon and Reflected are doing like an F-16 campaign and an F-18 campaign, and obviously when you make a campaign you have to build it for that aircraft, obviously for the right reasons, that of the abilities and all that sort of stuff. I don't think we're going to see catered campaigns to specific modules go away. In fact, they're their own kind of thing. What I do think it does, though, is it adds the ability to do a campaign, even if dynamic, and that you can jump potentially between different airframes. You know what I mean? If you have a battlefield that you have to deal with, it might be that you do a recon mission in a Kiowa, and then you follow up that mission in an Apache to do a strike on what you've just done recon on, and then maybe then you jump in a TARPS equipped F-14 and come and do a BDA. It's all these sorts of things that you get now with the dynamic campaign. Potentially you get this ability to have follow-up missions in different airframes. I think that's also another fix that potentially you get from the dynamic campaign. It's a cool prospect, at least.
And, with DTC.
DTC as well.
That's me harping on about that thing I always talk about. It would be very, very nice to get DTC, and that with dynamic campaigns would make it very nice and easy to get quickly set up, plan a mission, go and do it. And then, as you say, maybe even swap airframes, do follow-up, all kinds of stuff. It's the kind of thing that we've already been able to do, but you had to manually set everything up yourself. In the VAF, we've done these kinds of things. We've had campaigns of missions where we do something, then next week we do some kind of a follow-on, and everything is progressing. But of course, in those situations, everything is manually placed, everything is manually scripted.
I'd be curious to see as well is that what controls will you have for. How does the campaign progress when you're not playing?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be curious to see how they implement it, and whether there's options that, like, for instance, if you're a bit like a single player game, you play it, you hit save, you close the game, and it's just left and it freezes. But one option that could be really interesting is that if you play it, you go away, and whether it's based upon the amount of time you're away or just generate something, you go away and come back, and it's not how you've left it.
Yeah.
It's this idea that, like, you go away and come back, and it's like, oh, they've taken this base back, or they've pushed here, or we've managed to take this base in the time since you've flown last. That's really interesting, and I think that also adds an element of, like, the unknown and like, I don't know what the word would be for it.
You don't know what to expect. It's going to create a kind of unique experience for you.
And stakes. This is the biggest thing I think is really tricky. So speaking from a perspective of someone who streams DCS on, like, Twitch, you it's really hard to get when you're just jumping into a sandbox and you're flying around, right?
Hmm.
And even if it's a mission that's been put together, you're going through the areas, you're taking over bases and stuff. But if I'm honest with you, it doesn't feel like that. The battlefield doesn't feel very alive. It feels very much like you're kind of just hitting a target and flying back. And the vehicles might have a convoy that moves around, and some maps are really well put together, and servers, sorry, are put really well together. But you don't feel like you're really working towards anything or doing anything. And it's difficult to get that across, especially if you're streaming to people and you want to kind of get people involved. This idea of stakes, like what are the stakes involved if it goes right, if it goes wrong, all these sorts of things. And if people have a sense of stakes, not only from a game, from a streamer's point of view, but if individual people are playing a game, you're gonna really care about if you hit that target or if you bring back missiles for the next mission because you've only got so many. If you
Yes.
feel like there's stakes, so that's the big thing.
We've actually played around with this in our campaigns for VAF using the logistics system. So
Yeah.
like establishing forward operating bases for the Harrier or Apache or similar, only having a set amount of stuff that you start with and having set resupplies. And so then, if you don't use weapons, you absolutely need to bring them back because otherwise you're going to deplete your inventory quite quickly.
For sure.
Rob Mason, hi guys, loving the podcast. Have you guys seen or indeed checked out this Better ATC mod? It looks really good, in my humble opinion. I've never even heard of it.
Neither have I. It could be something to put on the to-do list.
Yeah, it sounds good. Griff Nizzle, probably the only one here that gives a damn, but considering the Hellcat was announced last year, I think that's going to be this year, right? How long from Mozzie announcements to release? Yeah, I think the Hellcat must be landing soon as well, for sure.
Yeah. It's not to say that warbirds are simple to make. They're not at all. But
No.
I can imagine there's way less work involved than, say, like a Strike Eagle. You just way less systems and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I can imagine the turnaround time for the Hellcats going to be a lot quicker. I imagine they'll probably try and time it before or after the Corsair, because the Corsair is also going to be bringing. They're working on a carrier for that as well, aren't they? Around
That's
the same
right.
time.
Yeah.
They're also going to probably want to time it around the time they did World War II Marianas. So I would imagine all those modules will come out in quick succession with each other.
Yeah. The Marinara map.
Marinara, yeah. Meatball Marinara.
Pink Floyd is asking us, would the dynamic campaign generator kill off campaign makers like Reflected? Griff Nizzle says no, and I that was my feedback as well. Like, no, these people making scripted campaigns, there's a huge amount of work that goes into that. There are voice actors. They're recreating very specific and in sometimes kind of like cinematic quality events that they want you to be part of. It's a very different thing. The dynamic campaign is going to be good if it's going to be anything like Falcon 4, which is my previous experience of these things. The great thing about it is going to be the sense that you're part of a real event. Because when I would fly the campaigns in Falcon 4, I could do a mission. I could choose to immediately do another mission, or I could say, no, wind the clock forwards a day and see everybody else do their missions and see what the outcomes are. And then I'll jump in again. You can pick and choose what you want to take part in. Everything has a consequence and everything's happening at the same time. And then even you getting in the cockpit on the ramp, tune your radio, you're immediately hearing other packages, other flights that are part of your package. All kinds of stuff is going on. They're constant takeoffs and landings, aircraft taxiing. It feels a more fleshed out, real experience.
Yeah. I remember one of my first experiences of a dynamic campaign. I think Robbie Hobby mentioned he's noticed my Jane's longbow and all that kind of stuff, and F-15 there. Jane's longbow had a really nice dynamic campaign in that you would often you would do a recon mission in a Kiowa, then you would come back and do a strike in the Apache, and the front line would slowly move, and what you did actually made a difference. And if you lost helicopters, you would then lose that not only the airframe but the weapons and then the pilots. The pilots would then get better, your AI pilots. So as they progress, they get more experience points and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of an RPG element. And then the other thing was another thing is sometimes if the helicopter got shot down, there's a chance that the crew survived. So you'd have to maybe send Black Hawk in to go and get them. That was another thing. So it's kind of early CSAR. It was really cool. So yeah, this idea that like you said, you feel like you're a part of this battlefield that feels alive, and like you're doing it. Because I've always argued that DCS, the world bit in DCS World, is less. There's less fidelity in that than the cockpit. People
Oh
joke about
yeah.
digital cockpit simulator. They beautifully and amazingly simulate these aircraft, but it's the world that needs a bit of love now, and I think dynamic campaign is going to be a huge part of that.
Although in saying that, there are kind of funny, nice details in the world as well. Like there are trains running on a schedule.
Yeah.
Like you take a map like Persian Gulf, there are tankers going back and forth all over the place.
Mm.
There are civilian cars. There's the smoke from factory chimneys is blown in the direction of the wind. Like there are
Yeah.
nice little things, but yes, yeah, the world needs
Yeah.
to feel a little bit more real for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And just to answer about, does he think that the stuff like Reflected and those guys are making? No, I think they're really well crafted,
Yeah,
like beautifully put together campaigns. And if you're interested in a specific airframe and a specific linear experience crafted together, I think they're going to just be two different ways to play the game. And I
absolutely.
still think campaigns are still going to do really well. This is what I think people need to keep in mind with the dynamic campaign when it comes together. It's not going to feel like you're flying on a Reflected or a Baltic Dragon or any of those games. It's nowhere near going to feel as good as that. Those games of even stuff like ATC and comms and stuff in those missions and campaigns are so much nicely put together. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, strongly agree.
Mhm.
Jumping back to the change log, we have Mirage F1. Is there anything particularly worth calling out here? I'm not sure. It's lots of
I fe-
small
I
stuff.
feel like I feel like Airges are absolute goats when it
Oh
comes to
yeah.
the. They're always doing work. I haven't seen. I can't remember the last time I saw an update patch, unless it was a hot fix, but where patch notes where they weren't putting loads of stuff in.
For both the F1 and the C101. Like the C101
Yeah, yeah,
is constantly getting stuff, and it's currently my favorite trainer. I've taken it up a couple of times with Frantic, and that's been a lot of fun. We've just like flown
yeah.
circuits and stuff like that in it, and done like proper like instructor student flying, and
Mm.
it's so much fun. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a great.
big shout out to the C101. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's lots and lots of small tweaks. There's nothing massive to call out here.
yeah,
And Magnitude 3 patching the MiG-21. That's
yeah.
nice. Nice to see that. Yeah, nothing massive. Jumping back to the newsletter, though, we've got the G91, and there is a development update for the G91. The Fiat G91, also known as Gina, was an Italian tactical support and reconnaissance aircraft developed in the 1950s. Operated also by Germany and Portugal, it made a significant mark on military aviation history. The G91A version that was chosen by the Frecce Tricolori aerobatic team, sorry, Italian people, became famous for its spectacular execution of the bomb maneuver, characterized by high speed passes just a few meters above the ground. Operationally, the G91 was used by Portugal during the colonial war, where it played a crucial role in Angola and Mozambique. Indy Fox Echo Visual Simulations is currently developing 4 versions of the G91 for DCS: the G91A, the R1B, the R3, and the R4. All of these are aimed at delivering an accurate and faithful representation in every detail. Now, I think you were commenting on this that these are actually images of the different variants, right?
I think so, yeah. Because at first, when I first saw it, I think it was on Instagram, and a lot of this text wasn't there, and it was just 4 images, and it was so funny. All the comments were people saying, "You just posted up the same image 4 times."
Yeah.
But I noticed the first one has a pointy nose. If you get to the
Yes.
second one, you've now got a slightly different nose.
Yeah.
On the third one, there's an additional pylon on the
Yeah. There's
outside.
additional pylons. Yeah.
And then on the fourth one, the difference I did notice is that the
The
gun.
cannon.
If you look at the gun ports are different, yeah. And then there's some other little like attachments and vents and stuff which look a little bit different. So
Yeah.
I suspect it's various. Maybe the R. I don't know the models, the R3s or R4s. Maybe they're reconnaissance versions or something. Maybe got cameras in them or whatever.
Could make sense. Yeah. That might be the
Mm.
case. But yeah, I was the same when I first saw the newsletter. I was like, "Oh, what idiot has posted the same picture 4 times?" And then I had to look really closely to notice that they're not the same picture.
Absolutely.
Oh dear. Anubis MZ, we need a good mod to create templates for airports. More immersion on the ground. Yeah, actually, yeah, getting good sets of equipment on the ground. Masoon being a big help in that regard. But yeah, that
Yeah.
would be. I agree. Mole,
Yeah.
absolutely love that the devs for the G91 are adding sidewinders, even though it never carried them. That flexibility on loadout realism is appreciated.
Yeah.
Griffin
Did they
Izzle,
say it would be like AIM 9Bs anyway, or a low? It's new. They're not sticking like AIM 9Xs or something crazy on it. I think
yeah.
it's period accurate.
And that vintage of Sidewinder is almost useless. You'd be better off using harsh language.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to quote Aliens. Yeah, what am I supposed to use? Harsh language. Yeah.
Graphics. In 2024, India Fox Echo visual simulations focused extensively on redesigning the cockpit to meet the highest standards. The next step will be an additional external model revision for even further improvements. Flight model. The G91 flight model is being developed using the panel method philosophy, whatever that means, dividing aerodynamic surfaces such as wings and tailplanes into smaller sections. Okay, right, now I know what it means.
Yeah.
Forces and moments are calculated for each section, ensuring an extremely realistic simulation in all flight conditions. Aerodynamic data is derived from the aircraft's authentic profile, while performance data comes directly from the operational manual of the Bristol Siddeley Orpheus engine. This approach makes the G91's flight model even more advanced than the excellent MB339, they say, praising their own
Mm.
previous work.
Yeah, absolutely.
um, yeah, this sectional model, actually, I've heard of this kind of thing. It's what X-Plane was originally very much praised for. Back in the
Yeah.
X-Plane 9 and 10 days, I remember flying that and comparing it to Microsoft Flight Simulator of the era and being like, ooh, X-Plane actually feels like flying a plane, whereas Microsoft Flight Simulator does not at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, of course, they're much better now. Systems. The G91 systems are entirely based on operation and maintenance manuals. Key features include separate load bars, pumps, accumulators, bypass valves, oxygen systems, and more that will ensure an unprecedented level of detail and accuracy. And weapons. IndiaFox Echo Visual Simulations, we've said that a lot now, has already implemented most of the weapons used by the G91, including all fundamental parameters of the AS-20 Nord missile. With DCS G91R IndiaFox Echo Visual Simulations, there it is again, aims to deliver the most accurate reproduction of this rare and iconic aircraft ever created for a flight simulator. Please stay tuned for more information. So, yeah, well, on saying that, I don't think the G91 has ever been in another flight simulation, so that's
Mm.
probably not difficult to achieve. At least I'm not
Yeah.
aware. Maybe there's a Microsoft Flight Simulator mod for it.
Yeah, or there could have been some like mid-90s one where it was like an aircraft in it, but certainly not a dedicated flight sim for the G91, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Branislav Radulovic, is it realistic to expect the F14BU to be a free update to the existing module, or worst case, paid update, not new module? Will it come by Q2 2025? I saw a comment by Cobra, Heatblur's top man, in the forums, and while he didn't commit to anything like a release date, oh, actually, I'm talking complete nonsense. He was talking about the F14A early. So yeah, Cobra made a post about the F14A early, and he said they basically wanted it out the door now. So that should drop any time now. F14BU, I don't know when that's expected to drop. Should we expect to pay some money for it? I think it's possible.
Mm.
It could be the case, but nobody knows. Ask Keepler, see what they
Yeah,
say.
yeah. It. I would say you're not talking a full module. I would say it would probably look a bit like the F5E remaster, where it's like
Uh-huh.
a tenner. I think it'd
Yeah.
be like $10, $15, that kind of thing. Because what is going into the BU is not just a graphical thing or a HUD, but there's a lot more going on underneath the hood. So, for instance, with the F14BU, you've got it's not just the, like I said, the heads up display. You've got the PTID in the background in the back seat, so you've got a much improved the TID. It's a programmable TID, that is. And there's a lot more going on with that thing. You've got also the CDNU that's in the
Yeah.
back as well. The ability to drop JDAMs we should be getting.
Yeah, you've got an
And
Iggy, which is a first for the F14.
exactly. And so the other thing is that's all got to talk with all of the additional coding that's already in that where they started from, because they're going to be editing a version of the B. And so, yeah, I think it's reasonable to say, $10-15 for something like that. I think
Yeah.
it's more than reasonable.
And
And
I
I
would be very
suspect they
happy to
will.
pay that.
Yeah. And it's going to add for some they're going to still love the A and they're going to love the old HUD and all the old systems, and it's fine. But I think for certain people, especially those that are used to the other fourth gens like the Hornet and the F16, they're going to now be able to jump into the Tomcat and feel a lot more at home and a
Yeah.
lot more like, oh yeah, now we're kind of in at least the late 90s kind of feel with that aircraft. So it's going to make a world of difference to them. I'm going to personally probably, if I were to fly the F14, I'll be flying the BU almost exclusively. I mean, if we ever got a D model, that would be like, that's my wet dream effectively for fixed wing. For me, that's the golden goose.
I'm actually thinking of doing a bunch of flying in the F14A, although the late, not the early one. Yeah, I want to get back into it, especially because we've now got the new fancy deck crew. I want to try out those marshallers.
Yeah.
Adrian Logan in the chat is saying Heatblur have said on Discord the F14 BU will not be free and also not to expect it soon. So there you go.
There you go. There's your answer for you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's the other thing they said as well. If I remember rightly, a while back, they might have changed their mind, but they were talking about porting Jester 2.0 to the Tomcat as well, weren't they?
That was always their intention.
Yeah.
Like some of the new things that they developed for the F4, they want to backport, but my understanding is that that's a lot of work because like it's a whole different design philosophy between the two projects. Yeah. So I don't think that would be quick or easy for them.
And tell me if I'm wrong as well, but the reason why I think the A early and the Persian Cat have taken a while is because it uses the same RWR is in the F4, so they wanted to get that done for the F4 and then port that into the early and the Persian Cat. So I think that's why that's taken a little bit longer.
Yeah, and also I think that earlier RWR primarily uses, and I can't remember the correct word for it, but it primarily uses these tones that are generated not synthetically. So like it actually takes the received energy and just converts it into human hearing range. What is the term for that again? I forget.
PRF tones, aren't they?
Is it the PRF? That's the one, yes. Yeah. So because it uses PRF, Heatblur had to develop a whole library and a system for this, which they then gifted to ED. And ED now have that in the core sim. So yeah. Dirk G, hello to all. Any news about the new Rio for the F14? No. No, I wouldn't expect...
Maybe he's talking about Jester. If you're talking about Jester 2.0, we were just saying that we've not heard anything more, but there was yonks ago, obviously, discussion about porting that over.
Yeah, and Griffin is saying the handoff tones. Yeah, that's the other thing. But PRF is a term that I've heard used. So as I understand it, that's basically the only thing that's holding up the early model F14As. They need the RWR finished. Yeah,
and just to mention that as well, because it's on the what do you call it, the roadmap for the F16. If you look on there, one of the last things is PRF tones for the F16, and there's even a bracket where they say we're waiting on the library, and I think that's Heatblur's library.
It is.
So
it is. That also comes from Heatblur.
Hopefully it means that the F16 will get all of its PRF tones as well.
Yeah, because when you hit the handoff mode button in the F16, it's supposed to focus on a single emitter and give you the PRF. And currently we don't have that.
Yeah.
I don't even think that was ever simulated in Falcon 4, now that I think about it, but I could be wrong. Because Falcon 4 had that same thing, and I don't think it worked, or at least in older versions that I played, it didn't work.
Yeah. I know that it's got a lot of the libraries of the weird sounds from different emitters, but whether the functionality of how that PRF tone handoff works is, I don't think it does. I think you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, jumping back to the newsletter content, we've got some pickies of the cockpit of the G91. The Fiat G91. This is looking nice.
Hmm,
It is kind of just like a bigger, more powerful saber, right?
yeah,
In a way.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it looks perfectly nice.
Yeah, it's basically a saber kind of built for because it's a ground attack aircraft primarily, isn't it? The
Yeah,
G91. So it's
ground
kind of like
attack
they
and
took a saber,
reconnaissance.
yeah, and turned it into a kind of a light strike. And what is interesting is if you kind of look at it, you're seeing that progression into that, third gen. You can see a lot of that, how to describe it, genealogy of things like the F1, the Mirage F1 and all that. You can just see these little design tropes that you see in these other things, which is cool.
Yeah. One thing I have to say is that the ergonomics are much better in this cockpit than in the Sabre. The Sabre's
Yeah,
cockpit is sort of silly.
yeah, yeah.
So this is already a lot better, I think. Rob
Hmm.
Mason, hi chaps, me again. What are you guys' views on general save game implementation for the single player DCS game? I'm mainly single player and a mission builder, but sometimes having to fully restart a mission can annoy.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the save game functionality is going to be very, very important. ED have said that they're intending to deliver that before Dynamic Campaign, so you should expect that to land very soon.
Yeah, because Wag said that in his Q&A, didn't he? He said, like, because there was a comment, a guy said, "Oh, I'm a dad and I don't have all that much time and I don't want to have to keep restarting,
Yes.
a mission or whatever." And Wag said, I think along the lines of, "Yeah, no, we understand, and that's a prerequisite to dynamic campaign."
Just hit pause and walk away. You don't have to turn your computer off. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, of course, save would be much, much better.
Hmm.
Griffnizzle should ask the Chads that make the A4. Its RWR is audio only. Yeah, the A4's RWR is actually really good.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. Getting locked by an SA2 is spooky.
Yeah.
Irish Pat 64. Has anyone noticed a difference in the AV8B Stovall characteristics? In short, no. And I fly that aircraft like a couple of times a week. Uh,
Mm.
so no, it's been handling just the same for me.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any difference.
What have you noticed in particular? And then I can try and reproduce. Good evening, says Stuart McLean. Dirk G, is it the same model as the Frecce Tricolor?
Hmm.
I don't know, is the answer. And
It does say, yeah, it's G91A version that was chosen by the Frecce Tricolor team, aerobatic team.
yeah,
So yeah, it sounds like the G91A is going to be part of it. That was part of the development progress thing earlier on.
okay, that's cool. Well, that would answer it then, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Moving on, we know that we have the lunar sail. I'm not going to read out what is or isn't in particular things, but sadly, John's face will now disappear. But
Yeah.
we have here the DCS lunar sail. Actually, if I do this, then you come back. So I'm going to do this. I've pressed Alt Tab and then held down the Alt key, and for some reason that means it renders both. Don't ask me why. Thank you,
That's
Discord, for
wild.
being weird. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
weird.
yeah. Here's the DCS Lunar Sail 2025 video. I'm assuming this is the work of the one and only Glowing Amram, now friend
Mm,
of the channel, Glowing
yeah.
Amram. Um, and yeah, this is looking amazing, of course, as it always does.
Hmm.
DCS is just very, very cinematic looking in general, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And even just with things like reshade and stuff, you can make it look so good in game as well. Because this would have absolutely had a pass through on whatever video production software, but reshade is amazing. If anyone hasn't used that yet,
Mm,
it's a really nice piece of software, and you can tweak things as to your kind of heart's content, and you can make it look even better. Really, really good.
yeah. So there you go, up to 50% off on most products. The
Mhm.
newsletter does detail exactly which ones, and I'm not going to because it's an enormous list. Is there anything notable in here? There was something that turned up for the first time. I think the MB339 is turning up
Mhm.
either for the first time or it's unusual for it to come up.
Yeah.
But again, notable things that are not on sale. Mirage F1 has never been on sale, I think.
Mhm.
Razbam's modules, none of them are on sale.
Yeah.
Unsurprising. Chinook is not on sale. Kaiwa is not on sale. Afghanistan, Iraq, Sinai, South Atlantic, not on sale. But
Yeah.
many other things are. Many other
Apparently,
tasty things.
it's a pretty common thing in DCS that when a module releases, generally speaking, it's about a year before you'll see it on sale for the first time. So
Yeah.
probably in the summer we might see the Kiowa on sale for the first time, and
Yes.
maybe later on the year the CH47 is
Okay, and apparently I'm talking nonsense about the MB339. It was on sale before, says Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
It's 50% for the first time, says Pink Floyd. Hmm. Nice. What else is going on? And Golden Gnu saying that the Apache is 50% off, which is rare. That's good to see.
That's a really good deal.
And looking over this list, is there anything that I would tell people rush out and buy right now that's on sale? What would I tell people to go for? If you haven't already got the A10C2 tank killer, obviously, buy that.
Yep.
You haven't already got the Apache, buy that. The Gazelle, buy the Gazelle. It's really, really good now that Polychop redid it. Yeah. Cola is 50% off, says Adrian, and it's not been out that long. That's a good map as well. So, yeah, that's definitely worth a peek.
Yeah.
Very nice. Cool. But yeah, that's everything on the newsletter for this week. And in fact, that's everything that I had in my list. Do you think we've missed anything, John Bloor? Is there any additional news items?
That's about it, really. I think the only thing we didn't really cover last week was there was a little bit of stuff to do with Polychop. So I have to be cautious of this because I actually know a lot of these guys personally, and they're good dudes. But basically, the it's all out there. This stuff, effectively, everyone but the CEO left Polychop. And that caused a bit of a freak out by people because obviously post Razbam and all that kind of stuff, people worried about their Kiowa and their Gazelle, and the CEO Sven, who's remaining, basically turned around and said, "Don't worry, it won't be going anywhere." Now, I actually do believe that. Sven's, I like everyone involved with it all. I think they're all good dudes. Sounds like there's some sort of disagreement or whatever. But effectively, I don't think he would turn around and say that unless that's the case. To be fair, both the Gazelle and the Kiowa are pretty much feature complete. And the only thing I remember really being on the agenda, at least for the Kiowa, was the potential AI sort of CPG, if that makes sense. Because obviously you have the AI pilot, but they were talking about maybe making the left seater be able to target stuff. I don't know what's going to go on with that. And then the Gazelle, they were at one point talking about maybe like a small upgrade pack for like $10 to $15 to add a bunch of new variants of the Gazelle, because obviously it's been operated by a bunch of other countries with different weapon systems. And
there was talk at some stage about making a real British Gazelle, but I guess that's unlikely to happen at this stage.
Yeah, I would say to people, this is just my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of Polyshop or anyone else, even though I've got a little bit links with them. I would say I wouldn't believe for 1 second that they're going to break or go away. I think you're fine in that respects, but I wouldn't really expect more than bug fixes going forward for at least a while until they kind of figure out what they're doing. But yeah, that's the kind of situation with that. I think because of all the 2025 and beyond stuff last week, and because that was quite a fresh story, and it's also one of those weird ones, isn't it? Where you're like, it gets a little bit like, what's the word? He said, she said, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we just either didn't get round to it, or I think we kind of left it.
We ran out of time. I think there was so much stuff to talk about last week. But yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
You were knackered by the end. You were absolutely exhausted. It's me and Chuckles were just banging on for ages. You were like, guys, can we just stop, please?
Please, I need to sleep. Well, keep in mind that I live an hour ahead of you two. So.
That is true. Yeah, we didn't even consider that. Absolutely. So yeah, Griffinizzle brings up about the Su-17.
We haven't seen anything about that for a long time.
Yeah, there's a couple of those. So there was the F8. Remember, someone was doing the F8. Was it the guys making the Corsair? They were going to do an F8 Crusader.
I vaguely recollect this, actually. Yes.
Yeah, and then that's kind of gone quiet. You've got the Su-17. That was the Who was that again doing the C-17?
He says here Octopus G was
Oh right,
working on
yeah.
it.
Yeah, so that would be cool because the what is that's not the fencer, is it? That's the God, what is it? Fitter? Yeah, fitter, I think. Am I right?
Could
And
be.
that's like a ground attack. It's got swing wing as well. It's a really weird, interesting
Well,
aircraft. 'Cause it looks like a MiG-29 with swing wings, doesn't it?
it's not even fully swing wing. It has like stub wings, and then from the stubs it swings.
Then it swings. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
it's
so
kind of
sorry, it doesn't
weird.
look like a MiG-29. It looks like it's like the front end of a MiG-21 with the kind of back end of a MiG-23. It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very strange
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'd be excited to see these aircraft, but we haven't heard anything in some time.
No, no, no. I can't think. There are some others I think that have been kind of flirted with. I mean, the famous one is Razbam every other week. Where like we've got here's a screenshot of a 3D render of something. It'd be like a wheel from like a lightning or something with it, and they'd be like, "Oh,
Well,
we're doing that now." Okay.
there was a point where Razbam were kind of the butt of many jokes when it came to this, because like you looked at like the list of announced Razbam modules and it was like 40 deep or so. So like they were going to do the Pucara, they were going to do the MiG-23, they were going to do a Jaguar, they were going to do an English Electric Lightning. They're like there was no end
Sea
to the
Harrier,
things.
remember? It was the
There was
Sea Harrier as
going to be a
well.
Sea
Yeah.
Harrier. There was going to be a Super Tucano. Actually, I suspect it was the Super Tucano that got them in trouble, but that's just a guess on my part. But yeah, like they announced every single aircraft that has ever flown. So, and I don't doubt they were fully intending to deliver them all eventually. So like, that's not to put them down at all. They were and probably still are an amazing module developer. I really like Razbam stuff. But yeah, it was a bit of a joke how many they announced. It was getting a bit silly.
Yeah. Speaking of which, as well, is that we've been looking. Yeah, obviously, Rom the other days he's been posting more on Twitter, and there's lots of images of helmets, and I think one he's been doing a bit. Obviously, M2000D, isn't it? That's the two-seater version of the M2000 that does ground attack and stuff. I think
nuclear
nobody
capable,
quite knows. Yeah, nuclear cable as well. Nobody knows for sure, but like I don't know if you said it earlier on the stream or we were talking about it. It's probably likely he's going to be working on Falcon 5 or whatever it's going to be, isn't it? I have a strong.
That's the suspicion. Yeah. Because they have some kind of a relationship with microprose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Oh yeah, Irish Pat 64 Cobra whiskey. Yum. I like whiskey.
Yeah, dude, a whiskey Cobra would be. That's the other. There's a couple aircraft that are really high up on my list. Whether we'll see them, I don't know, but I would love to see. And a whiskey Cobra would be really cool. And for people saying, "Oh, we've got the Apache," it's even though it's an attack helicopter,
it's not the same machine.
How it operates everything, how the Marines operate the Cobra, all sorts is very different. And I think also what makes the whiskey the most interesting one of them all is it's got such a long service history. You had the early kind of 80s versions up to, was it 2018? I think it was finally retired. So you've got so many different
was it replaced with the Zulu
versions. Yeah, they a lot of them got remanufactured, and then some of them just eventually just got retired. But a lot of the Zulu's now the sole Cobra that's left. But whilst the Zulu's the most capable, I think it doesn't offer. I feel personally it doesn't offer as much interest to me as the Cobra. Also, the Whiskey Cobra is this weird balance between analog and digital. And like I said, what's really cool is if you did a Whiskey Cobra, you could do a bunch of mini variations between it. So you could do early versions with tow missiles, and they had sidearms as well. That's the only other one than the Harrier that had the sidearm. And then you've got like later on in its life, it got the Hellfires, and then later on it started getting things like the CMOS system that we see in the missile warning system in the Apache. It started getting other systems and data links and things. So it's this really cool aircraft, and I think it just fills a different gap, which makes it interesting. But that's high up on my list. I hope someone does it eventually.
Yeah, I want a Jaguar.
Jag would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Jag
would be great. The other tricky thing is what version of the Jag would you do, unless you just do both?
The latest one possible. Because what was the latest one? The GR4 or something? I don't even
three, I
know.
think it was.
Is it
I
3?
don't know. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
had a big MFD in the middle, didn't it? If I
Yeah,
remember
and it got
rightly.
INS and all kinds of other more modern tech. So I'd want the
Yeah.
newest one. It had a nice UFC, as I recall, as well. The
Yeah, yeah,
later
yeah.
Jaguar. So yeah,
Didn't they have helmet mounted displays as well? I only found that out a while ago. They were one
I
of the
don't
few jets
remember.
I think they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they had. How sophisticated it was, I don't know, but yeah, they got. Pretty sure they got HMDs.
Well, I'm very quickly
You doing a quick
scrolling.
Google?
I'm scrolling. It got the Jaguar 97 avionics upgrade, whatever that
Mhm.
means. What is that?
Yeah,
I would need to do a lot of reading to figure that out. So anyway,
yeah. We could be wrong. Tell us in the comments.
yeah.
Someone let us know if you find out, and we'll review it. That's one thing we talked about, isn't it? That we might start if people comment on the videos, because a lot of people obviously watch these after,
Yes.
and we don't get to respond to them. So if people do comment on the YouTube, we're going to try and start going back to those, because we're obviously getting things wrong. We're going to,
Always.
and
Always.
also there's also information we don't know. Someone then also between that time than last week, we might discuss a topic this week, and then next week we get an answer on, say, like Wednesday. The
Mm,
beauty is we can go back to those and kind of answer that stuff. So do comment, and it also helps with the algorithm.
absolutely. Yeah, and we will. It'll be a good bit of fun. So yeah, the
Yeah,
upgrades they got new HUDs, they got a new hand controller, stick top. So yeah, the actual flight stick got changed. They got GPS, they got terrain reference navigation, so a terrain database. They got tiled. What else did they get? Digital reconnaissance pod, a helmet mounted sight, improved cockpit displays, a data link, night vision goggle capability, a new engine, and they were wired for ASRAM.
yeah.
But
Wow. So the late one was like a bit of a badass. If you did a GR3, I think you're going to get something that can. That was slap.
it was wired for ASRAM, but it says they didn't finish the trials with it before it was cancelled.
Yeah,
But it could have and did carry them, but not operationally.
yeah. That's the MOD in a nutshell for you.
We've developed this really cool thing. Let's cancel it.
Yeah, I remember there was a brief, and it's such a shame that when they retired the Sea Harrier, they had all these. Is it the Blue Fox? What's the later version and the later version of the radar on the FA2s?
I don't know.
It was the blue, whatever the radar they had on the later versions of them. They had them all spare, and they literally were looking at doing an upgrade, a bit like the 2 Plus. They were going to stick those
Oh, and the
on the
RF ones.
GR9s. Yeah,
Ah,
and there's a white paper about it, and it's annoying because in the old Razbam Discord, there was a couple people who were super knowledgeable. You remember some of them,
yes.
is it Matt GR9 and a couple other people, and they were like treasure troves of information. And yeah, he had a link to. I wish I could find it. He had a link to a white paper that was done. Never got further than that.
Yeah,
And I think it wasn't that long before they actually retired the Harrier anyway. But that would have been cool. That would
that
have
would
been
have been
great.
very cool. That would have been a very
Yeah.
capable radar for that aircraft.
Yeah.
Super
Too right.
nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Alrighty. Well, I think that's probably all the news we have for this week. So I want to remember everyone who's still watching, and if you're watching this after the fact as well, please subscribe, like, or comment. It's a really, really big help to me and to the channel. We are going to start reading out some of the top comments, as we mentioned there, in subsequent streams. And also, if you want to further support me, you've got the option of joining Deep Hack's ground crew by clicking the join link below. I really, really appreciate those of you who do so. At the end of the video, I'll call out all of you fabulous people. But before I do that, let's pimp the VAF, as I often do. The VAF, or the Virtual Air Force, as we call it. And John will probably disappear as I do this. But
Bye.
let's roll the video in any case, because it's super cool. So yeah, the VAF of the Virtual Air Force is a virtual online squadron originally started by myself and Dot Chuckles many moons ago. We fly on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. UK time, and we currently have squadrons operating the Harrier, the F-16, and the F-18. Although there are occasional other people flying random aircraft as well. It's a lot of fun. We're always looking for more people to join. You'll see a Discord link in the show notes below. Please come along and join that. And yeah, we're looking for pilots, air traffic controllers, mission makers, livery makers, scripters, all kinds of people. You're very, very welcome to join the Discord, whether you fly with us or not. I think, John, you've also flown with us on occasion.
Yeah, a couple times. It's mostly just been having the time to kind of dedicate to it really, and to put into a squadron. But you know, the few times I have flown with you guys, they're really friendly dudes. They're very patient, they're very polite, very nice guys. So yeah, if you're umming and ahhing about doing that kind of thing, and maybe even taking your DCS flying to the next level,
Oh yeah, because we
those
do
guys will
training,
absolutely help. Yeah,
and there's a lot of
absolutely.
very
They do training as well.
knowledgeable instructors who can train you up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great guys. I can speak as a external sort of element to them. They're really good dudes in there.
Nice. So you've
Cool.
been John Bloor. Visit
I have.
twitch.tv/John Bloor to check out all the mad stuff he's been up to. I wonder if you want to give us a
Yeah.
little update. I believe that you're doing some streaming soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, twitch.tv/John Bloor. Most of the time I fly rotary wing on usually PvE servers multiplayer. Although I'm sure I do mix it up a little bit. So obviously you have all the rotary wing stuff, but I do love myself a Harrier,
Mm.
because you know that's what real Giga Chads fly. And I always said I wanted to learn the Strike Eagle before it went on
Oops.
hiatus, to put it lightly. So
Yeah.
those are my two ones. But yeah, I mostly do that, and occasionally when I've got projects that come along, I also do illustration as well. So if you haven't seen it or weren't aware, some of the illustration in the DCS module for the Kiowa and some of the visual elements I was involved with Polychop in designing. So the one place you will see my work is if you load into a mission with the Kiowa theme installed or turned on at least, and you see the loading bit, you'll see my lovely artwork in there, and that was a fun project. But yeah, so I sometimes stream those if I do illustration or art streams, but mostly DCS. I'd say DCS 90% of the time. But I'm going to be streaming in about 20 minutes, so if you want to head on over there, I'll be flying around. It's always a good laugh, good fun, and yeah,
Go
that's
and
what I
do
do.
that. Go and pile into John's stream after this.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I've been Deepak. I post a new tutorial video every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. UK time. Currently doing a series on the Apache. I don't exactly know what I'll do next week. I guess I'll probably head up the Hellfire. That's probably the next thing to do. And that's always followed by the DCS news, which just happens to be this thing, what you're watching right now. If you want to support the channel a bit more, like I said, you can join Deepak's ground crew for a small monthly fee, about the same as the cost of a cup of coffee. It helps me create this content. If you like the tutorials, if you like the DCS news, please consider it if you can. Big shout out to you I can't speak. Big shout out to those of you who've already done so. Thank you very much. Channel Right, JR Walker, Fishy's Canal, Mr. Yeti, Tech Tier Zero, Seanam81, John Bloor, Tea Kettle Barbecue, Whiskey Dale, Stuart McLean, Mangash, Exorcist, Frantic, Michael, Willow Wilson, Byron Farrow, Osprey, Snublaran, Arda Usken, Hammy, Paul Cope, JP Gibbons, Warrior4588X, Kevy Kev, TPA, Irish Pat 64, Henning Ustenson, Colin Kelly, Jason O, Whoopaz, Pink Floyd, and Samantha. Thank you very, very much, all of you, for your support. And thank you, all of you, for watching this stream. It's been great to have you along. Fly safe, and I'll see you all next time. Ta ta.